So the narrative for months has been that Navi's major run was a fluke and that their results after the major kind of proved that. But this event seems to run counter to that narrative in that, it seems now like Navi they need some players to pop off in ways that they might not do it regularly, but they can do it sometimes. And very importantly, they tend to peak at a specific number of events. At certain events, they tend to be ready. They tend to have everything prepared. And other events, not that they're not trying their hardest, but they're not quite the same. And in this one, this is actually a pistol round that Navi used to run with Simple or something very similar to this. You could molly outside heaven, but then you get someone exactly where Bit is, and you kind of force the CTs to make a mistake because you take away all of their control of the entire map, and then they go, okay, well, I need some information back. You saw Monesy walk out of mini. You saw the double regress in lower. They're looking for some information back, but you're just sitting there waiting for that exact play. It's actually a really clever pistol that I really enjoy. So on the first gun round, Navi are going to run a strat that they have several variations of. I see them run a slightly different look depending on the team they're playing against, or at least that's what it looks like. And against G2, well, G2 have a tendency where when there's a top hut molly, instead of having Hunter smoke Squeaky, which a lot of teams will have that player smoke Squeaky, they like to have Snacks wait out this top hut molly that's already been thrown, then he's the one that throws the first Squeaky resmoke. What that means is there's this gap in timing here where there's no molly and no smoke, and JL can make his way out perfectly on time to get both entry kills before getting traded by Monesy. Now, when I show you one cool thing about this, Bit doesn't always throw a flash on this play. Sometimes he's kind of more ready for that player to be back sight, but in this case, he's going to throw a flash out hut. And if we look at this from Hunter's POV, Hunter is going to get pushed off of this angle here, tosses the flash, he hears them attacking out Squeaky, and the flash pops out of hut at that exact same moment, and that flash gets both Snacks and Hunter full blind. And if that flash from Bit lands, half a second earlier, Hunter doesn't get blind, they can take down Bit potentially, and then they might be able to pivot and actually make an upper hold happen. Instead, the exact timing of that flash makes it work flawlessly. Now, one of the things, no matter how good you are as a team, you can't really game plan against is Monesy with an op. Did I say op? I mean Monesy with a scout. Nuke is a great map to use the scout. It just feels so good because if you pepper a few body shots, then your teammates can finish them off so well with their advantages. But in this round specifically, Navi made their way into lower, and 40 seconds on the clock, they're looking to hit lower here. They've even got the bomb in position, but they do have JL in lobby, so going back upper is a possibility. And because G2 are on a bit of a semi-save here, I think Navi is worried that this might actually just be a lower stack because nobody's pushed lobby either. So Navi actually cancel and they decide that they want to go back upper. There's actually going to be a nice bait and switch in hut here as well with Snacks and Hunter. Snacks ends up dying and then Hunter will catch JL off guard. But the player I'm looking at here is Monesy because Scout in heaven, this is not really what you're expecting to do that well. He gets the one tag, another tag on the same player, then he finishes him off and then he pulls off some Monesy stuff. So even when he's having a bad final, Monesy is still pulling off some insane plays. I just want to note this one thing because this is kind of the double-edged sword. You saw this with Simple very often back in the day where their greatness is also sometimes their downfall because Monesy gets 2 kills here. He takes down Bit. That's the bomb dropped outside of Squeaky. And now they're in a 2v1. In theory, the smart play here is that Mobs and Monesy should group up and Imma's only got 15 seconds. He's going to have to go get the bomb. So you don't give him the engagement and then you can catch him falling back. It's really a desperation situation for Imma. But Monesy just goes for the repeat and gets the kill. Now, that's not a mistake in that Monesy knows that he's on it. He's feeling it. He's going to hit that shot. So he goes for the repeat. But the problem is when you look at players like Monesy and Donk who have such insane mechanics that they do that type of play, when they do have a bad series, they go for that type of play and it looks extra bad. So in the following gun round, you actually have G2, because of that upper rush on first gun round, they're very worried about this type of play. They're very worried about upper. They send Monesy over here. Hunter actually almost instantly smokes off Squeaky to not leave that opening. Monesy's got an angle onto that play that Bit might be considering making, but it's actually Navi that are going to make their way back around towards ramp and go for a hard ramp play after throwing early outer smoke. So Imma's got some control here. I think Imma actually wanted to cross, but the smokes went out earlier than he expected. Bit with the peek on a Mobs, lights him up, and he knows it, and then tosses this molly, which is a really solid molly to know that you can actually throw that without your opponent necessarily seeing you, unless they're very wide on that angle. So now you've got full ramp control for Navi. You've got Emma in a pretty solid position here. Alexa B is going to smoke off Mini, and G2 are just in a terrible spot because Mobs maybe in some scenarios you might have him get a bit more aggressive, but he's got 16 health. So do you actually, what do? Do you gamble lower here, or do you gamble upper, or what's the play? Well, G2 are going to gamble upper, and Navi on the other side are kind of gambling that this lower take is going to work. Alexa B, instead of going with his team, decides to stay towards lobby, and he's going to try to prevent the rotate that he knows is likely to be coming through. Him and Emma together actually are going to prevent any sort of rotate, and they're just going to kind of gamble that this lower take works well for them, and there's probably some reasoning behind it, but Mobs only gets one, then he's got really no chance to get more than one in this case. Alexa B out Squeaky, takes down Hunter, and look, at this point, the round should be over. I mean, G2 basically gambled off of lower. Alexa B and Emma are in perfect positions to shut down the rotate, but this is actually where the round breaks down, because Nico, they're not expecting this play. They're not expecting this ramp play, and Bit is looking the wrong direction. So Nico just comes in, gets the instant first kill onto Bit, and then Wonderful is an easy double up. And that leaves Emma 1v2, and he has to run down vent. They hear him the whole way, and they can just take him down. You know, I did like that play from Navi up until the part where they let a ramp flank happen without realizing it. So the last round was a communication breakdown, I think, from Navi. This time around, it's going to be a communication breakdown from G2. And I thought that was just funny. The smoke gets naded out. JL's full blind, walking into a wall and basically in the complete open. But Nico trades out. We go into a 4v3. And then Nico will go 1-for-1 on the players lower here as well. Takes down Emma. And he insta hits Wonderful down for 50. And Stax takes a pretty big risk here. He drops down into lower. Now, Nico only saw one player, so I think he thinks that it's likely Wonderful might go back. The other player's somewhere around. And this is definitely a risk, but it's, you know, it's a risk that pays off because he full clears lower. Now, what I think is odd is that Mobs goes with him, and Mobs almost looks like surprised when he realizes Snax is in that exact angle. And I get the impression here that maybe they were expecting that Mobs was going to cover Heaven, because Mobs goes into lower, then sees Snax, backs up, and Monesy's in hut here, and the spots that Navi could be coming from is like Mini, Heaven, and Lobby. And maybe Lobby is like the most likely because it's Bit, and, you know, there was only one player lower, so maybe you're thinking that's the most likely. But then Monesy just ends up walking out hut in the other direction, and Mobs is clearly knows that Heaven's a possibility, but Monesy walks out looking, he wants to re-peek towards Mini, and in this case, he just gets shot immediately in the back. And then you end up in a 2v2 that's kind of awkward because Snax is trapped in vents. He's got to have Mobs come out Squeaky so they can actually support each other. And although the kill will be taken down onto Wonderful, turning into 1v1, Bit is just in too good of a position and finds Snax jumping through the air, takes him down for the round win. So in the previous round, Navi went for a delayed ramp hit, they mollied Monesy out and took him down, and then G2 gambled upper, and Navi went lower. So G2 actually survived with 4 players alive last round. And this round, I really think, I mean, there's a smart gamble here, but this really does show, I mean, 6-2 down, G2's kind of in desperation mode here. They're not going to play a single player ramp. You know, Mobs smokes it off and then goes quickly over to lower, and you actually have Monesy who will move his way over, smoke it off, but then he's going to rotate right back away, and they're just kind of thinking, okay, well, Navi throws a lot of utility when they do take ramp, so we're going to let them throw that utility, not give them a kill as we have a couple of times previously, and we're going to go from there. Now, Mobs and Emma, I don't think they actually see each other there. So, although Mobs is in lower, not playing ramp, I don't think Navi actually know the setup that G2 run in this round. It's just that when the upper hit comes in, and that's exactly what Navi are setting up here, G2 are going to have 3 players in upper, and not only that, but Nico is going to be here to stop any lurk when if a lurk was to come out. So Monesy rotates his way back into Heaven, and he's in perfect position when this hit does actually come in, and G2 really doesn't have much of a chance because when the lurk does come through from Immo, who wants to get into Mini, Nico's right there waiting for it as well. And someone told me to use the player crosshairs to show player crosshairs in these games, and man, what are these crosshair for ants, dude? Like, how am I supposed to see any of this, dog? Anyways, so I do think it's kind of important that Navi wasn't really 100% sure of the setup that G2 was running in that previous round, And what they'll do here is they're going to get pretty quick lower control, 3 players lurking across the smokes here, and then you've still got the bomb at back lobby, and you've got Wonderful on top of lobby. The plan is probably to go back up vents here shortly later, and the problem though is that Nico and Monesy are in perfect position to deal with this. And if you look at this, I mean, this is how tight the timings here are at the pro level, because Alexa B is completely ready for this play, but they're not expecting to double up and lower. G2 just have the right read. So he's ready for that play from Nico up until Hunter makes contact, then he swings, and that's when Nico bites, and he actually gets both kills. As much as I want to give lots of credit to Navi, because they do play a really impressive game, and it's clear that they have the upper hand in a lot of these rounds, you do have to accept that this is kind of a symphony of errors coming out of G2 as well. I mean, Monesy's having a very rare kind of weak series, and then you have other players kind of missing nades, and you'll see this from Hunter as well. JL tosses that molly down. There's nowhere for Hunter to be looking here. His team is looking at this smoke, but he's moving his way over to radio. He looks there as he's moving there. JL catches him in the side, not prepared. And although Nico will bring something back here as he lurks his way through the smoke, the nade timing actually kind of works in Nico's favor. He does get traded, and then you've got what is a 3v4. And you've got a molly and 2 flashes for Snacks, and he's actually going to toss that towards ramp. But because of the position we've got from Bit here, it's kind of obvious that this is a fake. After a couple seconds, Bit's like, okay, that's a fake, and he's going to end up dropping down. Then you have contact over on this side of the map. Imma and JL are going to double peek and get the kill on Mulbs, and you just have Bit basically putting a timer on this round, right? He's got the flank at just the exact right timing, and he's going to take down both kills. Then in the very next buy round, you actually have Navi. They kept 5 players alive previously, so they've got Bit holding on to that Galil, and they've also got JL here with an MP9. They're just going to go for a very fast play in towards lobby, double push from ramp with Bit and Alexi B, and then you have JL in hut as well, taking quite a bit of control. And not only that, they're actually going to let G2 know essentially that they have lobby control, clear out the entire thing, and G2's kind of not in the greatest situation here because they weren't going for any fast play towards outer, which means they really are almost forced to actually waste a lot of time and utility, well, a bit of utility, retaking towards lobby and clearing out all of these positions that they know Navi could easily be in. And Navi just back up and give up lobby. Now, here's the problem. I have to mention this. All my comments are about people aiming low because I've made like 2 or 3 videos about Zontix, but Bit is legitimately aiming low. Dude, why? Now I'm just noticing it everywhere, dude. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Regardless, Nico and Hunter both go down. This is just really not a great situation to be in if you're G2. JL's in perfect position. You don't necessarily love hitting upper against an MP9. It is a weaker gun, but it certainly doesn't feel like it when you're running into it. And G2, at the end of this half, don't win a single T-side round. Now, there's only a few buys that they have, but this is kind of a masterclass on the defense from Navi. And when I said before, there's a symphony of errors, you're going to notice Hunter does end up dying to JL here in Rafters, and it looks kind of like Hunter just went for a play. He had the AK, he was going for a play, makes sense. But if you actually rewind that for a second, check out this flash that Monesy throws. This is actually a coordinated play. It's meant to do well. Flash hits the ledge, and Hunter, with what could have been a free kill onto a completely blind JL, turns into starting the round 4v5. And not only that, but you lose, your AK, you have to go back and retrieve it. Nico outer with the scout, can't get anything done, and all of a sudden, it's 11-6. So I wasn't going to include this round, but it just goes by so fast that I'll show it. G2 come off of a pause. They don't have a perfect utility. They don't have perfect money. And they do know that Wonderful last round didn't have an op. There's definitely potential that Wonderful could have just upgraded to an op because a player does die and they've got all the money in the world. But I think Navi isn't a team that necessarily buys an op that early on if rifling's going well. So maybe that's what G2's expecting. And they just hard swing out straight into what is a double setup from Alexi B and Wonderful. And it's not until Hunter that a single kill goes their way, although Alexi B playing with fire a little bit there. Hunter certainly could have found that kill, but at the end of the day, it's Alexi B that's going to find the better of Hunter. At the end of the round, 30 seconds later, G2 are desperate at this point, 12-6 down. And then you have this round where I said last round the utility wasn't perfect. Well, this round the utility is actually basically just bad. And not only that, but Navi has done several aggressive plays. They've done several stacks. You're in the situation, if you're G2, that you're just really not sure what you're going to get hit with at any moment in this round. And that leads them to play, you know, I think it leads teams to play fairly scared when you're really uncertain of what exactly is going to be coming out. But yet again, you're going to have Navi in almost a picture-perfect setup for the play G2 is going for. G2 is going to make a play out of Hut. Likely, Navi predicts the not perfect utility, and this is a play you might make in that situation. It's actually going to end up being a bait. Imma makes first contact, then JL peeks out off of that contact, gets himself a double, and then you just end up having a 3v2 where G2 they have site control, but they really don't have much health, and you have really solid positions from all three members of Navi. The delay on the plant makes this a little uncomfortable. They didn't really have the right utility to go for a safe plant. The nade through the smoke should take down Navi, or Monesy rather, and then Snacks 1v3. I mean, Snacks has been playing great so far this event, and for G2 in general, but this is just not one you're expecting him to win. Although Alexi B through the smoke gives him an opportunity, it's bit out from the flank that should just finish him off. And that's what is a very one-sided game from Navi, starting on T-side Nuke, picking up 13-6, 6 rounds on T side, and not giving G2 a single one in the second half.